Hi, welcome everyone. I'm so delighted to be here with composer Adolphus Hailstork, and he's going to tell us more about this wonderful composition that I had the pleasure of leading the world premiere performance of, To Those Who Serve. Welcome.
Thank you, Daniel. Glad to be here. I know that there might be some folks out there who are interested in knowing how this piece came about. First of all, I received with joy the invitation to write a piece for Symphonicity from Rebecca Brown, who was president. And I had wanted for years to do write a piece that used the Navy hymn, which is, to me, one of the great hymns in the world. And when this came about, I said, well, this is a natural thing to do. This is a great opportunity for me. So I started working on it. I knew that, you know, it's an orchestra that rehearses about once a week. They're all volunteers. I wanted to take care with my writing, but at the same time making a piece that was effective for them. I found out much later that I didn't have to worry about it so much, because under your guidance, especially, the orchestra's taken off magnificently, technically. And so anyway, so that's the purpose of it. I was invited to do it. I wrote the piece that built up to the culmination, which used the Navy hymn. Now, why the Navy hymn? Because, folks, if you've looked around, you see a lot of Navy here. Like, it's the greatest naval seaport in the world, and we proudly live in it. And we have warriors all over the place, and I want to salute them. And I had written a piece years earlier called An American Port of Call. So this seemed like the capstone to write a piece that honored the men and women who sail out of that port into harm's way. So that's how the piece came about. And it was a joyous occasion, and one of the loveliest musical experiences I've had in a 60-year career.
Wow, that's quite an endorsement. It was an honor for us to world premiere it. And I have to also say, as currently a member of the Air National Guard, and just prior to that, an active duty member of the United States Air Force, it's really neat to come here to Virginia Beach and world premiere a piece written by a military veteran.
Yes, I was an Army guy, but I've since coming here have adopted the love of the Navy, which comes in very handy in this area.
I'm going to ask you about your compositional sort of habits, or, you know, are you the type of composer that works in a very regimented kind of schedule and manner, or do you work more from when it strikes you? Or
I have a schedule. In fact, I schedule an entire month, and I'm working about 5 or 6 pieces at a time, and so I scatter them throughout the month. And if the high priority piece gets 2 times a week, and other pieces get 1 time every other week or something like that, and that's the way I work. It's every day. I take a couple of days off, you know, periodically, just to relax the brain. But that's the way I work. Now, you write too. What do you do?
Oh, I do want to answer you, but I feel shy doing so, because for lots of reasons. For one, because you know, anything that I say or anything that I've written hardly stands in comparison to the great work you've done. And secondly, you know, I write in a very different fashion. So here I was going to, you teed me up. I was going to say, I'm so glad you said what you said. Let's talk about the discipline required to be a successful composer. But then you totally got me off the tracks, because now I have to tell you how undisciplined I am.
That's okay.
For me personally, and I think it's in part because it hasn't been a regular portion of my career. It's been more of it's kind of fit more on the side. I'd like to move it more front and center. It's hard to do. And I think to do that, it has to be what you're describing. You have to be willing to discipline yourself, to bring that into focus,
yeah,
and make that a part of your routine, your regiment. You exercise the time management and skills necessary to produce what you want to produce. But because that hasn't quite happened for me, I'm kind of crazy when I write. Once I finally embark on that sort of germination that I believe in my heart and soul that has the potential to go where it needs to go.
Uh-huh.
Then I don't eat or sleep. I have all hours of the night. I abuse myself horrendously until it's all said and done.
Okay.
So,
That's the way some people work. That's right. I've always been, a systematic incrementalist. I can't, it's like when you take exams in college and stuff like that. Some people wait till the last minute or when they have a paper due.
yeah.
I never was able to work like that. I always had a timeline. Boom, boom, boom. I had to match that. So controlling time is very important.
I should say, all of my key mentors in my life compositionally have always advocated for this. And two of the earlier teachers I had very early in my life, the first was composer John Beal. I studied with him at West Virginia University. And he said to me in my early composition lessons, he said, look, it's so important that you write, like, every day, even take time to just write, no matter what it is, just even if it's a little bit, like, exercise, engage that part of your skill set. It doesn't have to, the thing that he liberated me on, I think, in a way, was he said, not everything you write down has to be anything, really. It doesn't have to turn into the big thing.
Yeah.
It's really the act of, it's the exercise of.
Exactly.
That was great, because when we think about anything in life that we want to do well, I mean, I'm a musician as a performer as well. And in percussion's my background. Well, how did I get there doing well with that? I practice hours and hours a day. Everyone knows this. Same if you want to be a writer, if you want to be a computer programmer, you name it. It only makes sense. And so it's wonderful to hear that discipline from you. And I also saw it in action with another wonderful mentor and teacher I had, Mark Camphouse, who may be familiar with Mark's music. But he's very opposite of me, where I'm like the stay up all night kind of person. He wakes up super early in the morning. And he has this dedicated time every day in the morning when he would just focus on his writing, and before the rest of the world's day really even begins. And that's how it worked for him. So it's different for everyone, though. I've had to sort of give myself permission to be me, and to bring my standards of work ethic into that space of sort of chaos. It seems chaotic in terms of when it happens, but when I'm engaged, I'm very methodical and very disciplined about how I go about the writing. But I love hearing how you describe that. It inspires me because I want to be like you.
Well, look, you're probably much more systematic when it comes to preparing your scores for conducting.
This is true. This is true.
I mean, you can't prepare that Ravel at the last minute. I think I'll do the Ravel second.
You're so right.
Yeah.
That's a great point. There again, I think it's a reminder to myself, as you bring it up, that if I want to bring my creative time more into focus, it does require more of that prioritization of scheduling. You have to schedule. And so this has been a good little motivator for me, but hopefully if I might share this bit with others out there too, good advice for everyone. If you want to create, you have to practice doing it, but you also have to schedule the time to do it and do it well and get better at it as you go, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But now the question I also haven't asked, but I'm sure you've been asked many times, what about those times when you've scheduled it, you're in your routine, you've got your 4 or 5 or 6 pieces you're working on, and it's just not happening? You're there, you want it to happen, or does that not quite happen for you? Is there always?
I've never waited for inspiration to catch up with me. And so it's just that I'm a craftsman, and so I practice my craft every day, just like you suggested, and occasionally a decent piece will come out of it. But I love to write, and so there's it's just get up and practice your craft. And that's, by the way, that's the reason I switch off. If I'm not working on 5 or 6 pieces, I go crazy. You have to relax your mind on one piece while you work on another piece, maybe a lighter piece, and then go back to it, and all kinds of fermentation is taking place while you're away from it. So they recycle themselves in my mind, and that keeps me sane. And I said, I think I want to remain sane. you know that thing about how dopamines get released and serotonin and all that stuff? That's what composing does for me. It's the most joyful activity I do.
That's beautiful. So in a way, it keeps you grounded, but it also keeps the air under your wings, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I like that. Yeah, you got away with words. Yeah,
Well, at least I have that.
yeah, yeah,
Well, that's wonderful. I appreciate you sharing some of your insight about that.
yeah.
And also, I have to tell you that in all of my years and throughout my career of meeting many different artists and composers, I believe you are the first that I've ever met who has said that you are actively and purposefully working on as many as a half a dozen pieces at once,
Yeah.
and you explain why. Now that is really that's like opens a whole new world to me. This idea that in an effort to stay also fresh and engaged, by giving yourself multiple opportunities to
Yeah.
engage creatively, you can still channel the energy, the time, and the productivity. But by simply changing to that other project, now maybe
Right.
you're feeling more connected to this one today.
Would you like to see one of my old schedules? I'll send it to you.
That would be neat.
Yeah, I got the September schedule, I think, and I've got earlier schedules sitting around, and it goes day by day. On Sunday, I devote Sunday to choral music, religious choral music,
Wow.
and the weekdays and then I have all the other pieces I do, and then I take about every 10 days or so I take a couple of days off for just mental relaxation.
Well, that's good. I mean, again, to help him keep that sanity, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got to take a break. It's you might call it a Sabbath, and a 2-day Sabbath every 10 days or so is what I usually do. Yeah.
I mean this sincerely as I say it. Hearing you say all this, it's just, I'm learning. I feel so enlightened by your perspective. And it also brings into mind your role as a teacher, not just an artist and composer and all that you do, but also I know you teach you have for years, you have given knowledge to others. And so I'm curious to ask you, just in a general, how do you approach teaching composition? To me, the hardest things, how does one even define what that is?
I only teach craft. You can't teach. Some people. I can give them tools and let the Almighty give them talent. That's all I can. That's all I can do. Yeah. So that's why I do it. Usually, I have at Old Dominion a 5-semester It's a 5-semester program in composition. I work that out so that they move from beginning learning how to write a melody and all the way to looking at contemporary techniques in the 5th semester. And the 3rd semester, I concentrate totally on writing for vocal music, because a lot of people really don't know how to write for the human voice, which is a unique challenge in itself. Yeah.
Wow. Well, all of this has me thinking that here in the near term, I'd like to get back with you and sign up for some lessons. And I do mean that. I have things I can share with you and get your feedback, some of my vocal writing that I'd love to learn more from you on how to do better with that. Rich Moriarty has been very complimentary too of the mentorship you've given him, and that on that subject as well as others. And
he's a heck of a choral composer himself, and composer. I mean, he takes a little longer because he started later, but
right.
He's coming out with some strong. Do you know his adsum, his mass called adsum?
Yes.
That's a hell of a piece. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that piece. Yeah.
And the We That Wait we did last year, his song cycle based off the poetry from the Civil War. Right. I thought that was very powerful. There were some statements throughout that work that were just, I felt, very original and extremely thoughtfully designed, if you will, compositionally. He's really, really developing lovely work.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, he attributes a lot. I know a lot of mentorship from you, so that's wonderful.
Well, I think Daniel Poor had a lot to do with it. So. Yeah.
Yes, he brings him up all the time.
Yeah.
And I know he travels around to keep up with his activities too. So that's great. By the way, with travel, have you found that, traveling to experience your music in performance, I'm sure it's always, an invigorating experience for different reasons. And as I have also experienced that with the premieres of my works, but sometimes the way that it's rendered in that type of setting and the way that you always hoped it was going to sound, sometimes they're not the same, but it might be for different reasons. It might be because maybe I need to go back and rework that a little bit, or it could be just that it's so difficult for any any instrument and person to maybe fully bring to fruition the absolute perfect essence of everything you had conceived. How do you deal with that?
I don't believe in perfectionism. I don't. Don't. I refuse to throw out the good in the search for the perfect. I call it a term I got from a guy who wrote a book on creativity, John Osborne, I think it was his name. Maximizing, or no, satisficing, rather than maximizing.
Satisfying.
So yeah, when I get to a high enough degree of satisfaction, I call the piece over, or I'm just tired of working on it. I said I'm calling. For instance, today I'm working on a little piece for marimba and saxophone, and this is a lark. I mean, I was just doing it for the fun of it, and I'm getting close to my satisficing level, and the trick was figuring out where I can get the darn give the marimba player time to turn the page, and so I had to throw in some extra cadenza-like material for the saxophone so the marimba player could get a rest and turn the darn page.
I love it. As a marimbist, I have to tell you that I appreciate your thinking on that.
Yeah.
And on marimba, it's so interesting reading pieces that are written for marimba, and especially virtuosic work where there's a lot of notes on the page. As you know, typically we would have multiple pages taped together on multiple stands.
I was wondering how you guys did it, but I said I don't think I want that. I'm going to just give them time to turn the page. But
and then what happens though when you have to do it the other way is that you have to, and of course, take the whole set of pages and remove them so you have the next set, and that's really obstructive when you have to use multiple mallets and you're using your hands. So the fact that you're thinking about that is wonderful, because not everyone does for marimbas. So thank you.
yeah. I'm the guy to turn the page. You got two hands and wait. So I said okay, and I was laying out the full score for the two of them today, and I said the marimba will read off the full score, won't it?
Yes.
And you see the saxophone part, right?
Absolutely. I've certainly have done that many times. And a lot of times, because of the physical nature of marimba playing, it's quite often that a lot of the repertoire as you learn it is kind of committed to your muscle memory so that you can gain that visual insight as you're also reading. I mentioned that only to say that, of course, with having the score form, you're using more page space, so you have to turn pages more. But the way that marimbas learn music, it works very naturally for how we work. So
do you guys prefer just to see your own part and not the saxophonist?
Well, it depends how dense the part is. When I have done chamber music like that with another soloist, I prefer to see the line. So, I think that's really helpful, especially if it's really an interactive part where there's dovetailing or there's some type of connection like that. So I think it's wonderful that you're doing that. And I'm looking forward to learning more about that piece. And
okay,
we'll have to.
I'll send you a copy. Do you own a marimba of your own?
No, I own a house with 5 kids, but and a baby grandma, no marimba.
How do you have time to even carry on a conversation on Zoom if you got 5 kids?
Well, I'm
married. Of them running around the house?
I'm married to a wonderful partner who helps, and she's keeping them at bay right now so that they're able to interfere too much in our conversation. But we do all right. We do okay, and we're glad to be out here in Virginia Beach. It's a very it's a very family friendly place to be. We've appreciated all the friendships, the support. That's been actually wondrous. And Symphonicity, what an organization that you've had a longer association with than I have. I mean, just full of wonderful people and personalities and kind people, passionate people, you name it. It's everything. It's wonderful.